Hello. So today we're going to record Act 5 of Macbeth. When we left off in Act 4, Macduff had just found out that his whole family had been killed by Macbeth, and he and Malcolm have pledged to go back to Scotland and reclaim what is rightfully theirs. When we pick up in Act 5, we are in Scotland with a doctor and a gentlewoman, which would be kind of like, I don't know, like
a lady in waiting, but like somebody who is close to Lady Macbeth.
Right, kind of like her attendant or her assistant.
Yeah. She's not exactly a servant, but she's definitely not
equal.
Important.
Yeah. All right. So Act 5, Scene 1, Doctor and a Gentlewoman. I've stayed up with you for 2 nights now, and I haven't seen any evidence of what you were talking about. When was the last time you saw her sleepwalking?
Since Macbeth went to war, I had seen her rise from her bed, put on her nightgown, unlock her closet, take out some paper, fold it, write on it, read it, seal it up, then return to bed, remaining asleep the entire time.
It is unnatural to be asleep and act as if you are awake. When she is like this, besides walking and performing various activities, have you heard her say anything?
She says something, sir, but I would not repeat it to you.
You can tell me. You really should.
I will not confess it to you nor to anyone else, because there is no one else to witness her speech.
Lady Macbeth enters at this time, holding a candle.
Look, here she comes. This is exactly how she always looks, and I swear it, she is fast asleep. Watch her. Keep hidden.
How'd she get that candle?
It stands by her bedside. She always has to have a light next to her. Those are her orders.
You see her eyes are open.
Yes, but they don't see anything.
What is she doing right now? Look how she rubs her hands.
She often does that. She looks like she's washing her hands. I've seen her do that before for as long as 15 minutes.
There's still a spot here. Listen, Listen, she's talking. I'll write down what she says so I remember it better. Lady Macbeth is rubbing her hands while she says this. Come out, damn spot. Out, I command you. 1, 2. Okay, it's time to do it now. Hell is murky. Nonsense, my lord, nonsense. You're a soldier, and yet you are afraid? Why should we be scared when no one can lay the guilt upon us? But who would have thought the old man would have had so much blood in him?
Did you hear that?
The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What, will my hands never be clean? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You'll ruin everything by acting startled like this.
Now look at what you've done. You've heard something you shouldn't have. She said something she shouldn't have, I'm sure of that. Heaven knows what secrets she's keeping.
I still have the smell of blood on my hand. All the perfumes of Arabia couldn't make my little hand smell better. Oh.
What a heavy sigh. Her heart is carrying a heavy weight. I wouldn't want a heart like hers even if you made me queen. Well. I hope what she's saying is well, sir. The disease is beyond my medical skills, but I have known people who sleepwalked and weren't guilty of anything.
Wash your hands. Put on your nightgown. Don't look so frightened. I tell you again, Banquo was buried. He cannot come out of his grave.
Is this true?
To bed, to bed. There's a knocking at the gate. Come. Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed. Lady Macbeth exits.
Will she go to bed now? Yes, right away. Evil rumors are going around. Unnatural acts will cause supernatural things to happen. People with guilty and deranged minds will confess their secrets to their pillows as they sleep. This woman needs a priest more than a doctor. God forgive us all. Look after her. Remove anything she might hurt herself with. Watch her constantly. And now, good night. She has bewildered my mind and amazed my eyes. I have an opinion, but I don't dare say it out loud. Good night, good doctor.
They both exit. So Lady Macbeth's helper has called this doctor because she's like, hey, something is wrong with Lady Macbeth. This is not okay. Sleepwalking was a big deal back then, right? Because remember, sleep is what restores your soul, like what makes you well. And so the disruption of sleep was like unholy and problematic, right? And the doctor kind of agrees. He's like, I have seen people who sleepwalk that weren't guilty of anything, but, you know. And then he says, this woman needs a priest, not a doctor. Like, get her away from me. Keep her away from anything that could hurt her. Right? So that's a little bit of like foreshadowing, Don't let her hurt herself. So in the next scene, Menteith, Katniss, Angus, and Lennox, and a bunch of soldiers enter with a drummer and a flag. The English army is near, led by Malcolm, his uncle Seward, and the good Macduff. They burn for revenge. The wrongs they have suffered would make dead men rise up and fight.
We'll meet them near Burnham Wood. They're coming that way.
Does anyone know if Donalbain is with his brother?
He is definitely not there, sir. I have a list of all the important men. Seward's son is there, as well as many boys too young to have beards who will become men by joining in this battle.
What is that tyrant Macbeth doing?
He's fortifying his castle at Dunsinane with heavy defenses. Some say he's insane. Those who hate him less call it brave anger. One thing is certain, he's out of control.
Now Macbeth feels the blood of his murdered enemies sticking to his hands. Now rebel armies punish him every minute for his treachery. The soldiers he commands are only following orders. They don't fight because they love Macbeth. Now he seems too small to be a great king, like a midget trying to wear the robes of a giant.
Who can blame him for acting crazy? When inside, he condemns himself for everything he's done.
Well, let's keep marching and give our loyalty to someone who truly deserves it. We're going to need Malcolm, the doctor who will cure our sick country. We'll pour out our own blood to help him.
However much blood we need to give to water the royal flower and drown the weeds, to make Malcolm king and get rid of Macbeth, let's proceed on our march to Burnham. So this scene is really kind of confusing, right? Because you've got all these people that we've never really heard of before. We don't know who they are.
Except Lennox.
But basically, the idea is that they're headed towards Burnham Wood, and everybody is going to meet at Burnham Wood. Now, Burnham Wood we've already heard of before, right? It was in one of the apparitions warnings until Burnham Wood marches on Dunsinane, right? And so that's where Macbeth is holed up right now. He knows that people are coming against him. He's had to fight rebels left and right already. And now here comes the big surge of people. And they're all talking about how Macbeth is going nuts. The people who fight for Macbeth, because there are some soldiers who are fighting with Macbeth, but it's only because they don't want to get killed by Macbeth, right? He says, they don't love him. They're only doing it out of duty. Right? They don't want to die for treason, so they're gonna fight with Macbeth. But soldiers like that probably aren't going to be very strong.
Also, there's kind of an important, like in sort of famous metaphor here. We're going to water the royal flower and drown out the weeds. And so Malcolm, who is the rightful heir to the kingdom of Scotland, he is the royal flower. Macbeth is, the pesky weeds that just kind of sprung up and are choking it out, And so by spilling their blood, they are watering the royal flower, like they are willing to sacrifice themselves in order to, hold up this rightful heir and support the kingdom and the monarchy that should be in place, and to, end this tyrannical leadership of Macbeth.
And there's another metaphor up a little higher that kind of comes back in a different way. The idea that Scotland is sick, right? It's a
the doctor, right?
Entity, and it's sick and it needs to be cured. And so Katniss is saying, we're gonna go get the doctor, who is Malcolm, and he's gonna cure our sick country. That idea of the country being sick is gonna come back later.
All right. So separately, in scene 3, Macbeth and an actual doctor enter with attendants.
Don't bring me any more reports. I don't care if all the Thanes desert me. Until Burnham Wood gets up and moves to Dunsinane, I won't be affected by fear. What's the boy Malcolm? Wasn't he born from a woman? The spirits that know the future have told me this. Don't be afraid, Macbeth. No man born from a woman will ever defeat you. So get out of here, disloyal thanes, and join the weak and decadent English. My mind and courage will never falter with doubt or shake with fear. May the devil turn you black, you white-faced fool. Why do you look like a frightened goose?
There are 10,000
Geese, you idiot?
soldiers, sir.
Go pinch your cheeks and bring some color back into your face, you cowardly boy. What soldiers, fool? Curse you, that pale face of yours will frighten the others as well. What soldiers, milk-face?
The English army, sir.
Get out of my sight.
I leave.
Satan? I'm sick with heart at what I see. Satan, come here. This battle will either secure my reign forever or else topple me from the throne. I have lived long enough. The course of my life is beginning to wither and fall away like yellowing leaf in autumn. The things that should go along with old age, like honor, love, obedience, and loyal friends, I cannot hope to have. Instead, I have passionate but quietly whispered curses. People who honor me with their words but not in their hearts, and lingering life which my heart would gladly end. But I can't bring myself to do it. Satan!
What do you want?
Is there more news?
All the rumors have been confirmed.
I'll fight until they hack the flesh off my bones. Give me my armor.
You don't need it yet.
I'll put it on anyway. Send out more cavalry. Scour the whole country and hang anyone spreading fear. Give me my armor. How is my wife, doctor?
She's not sick, my lord, but she is troubled with endless visions that keep her from sleeping.
Cure her of that. Can't you treat a diseased mind? Take away her memory of sorrow? Use some drug to erase the troubling thoughts from her brain and ease her heart?
For that kind of relief, the patient must heal herself.
Medicine is for the dogs. I won't have anything to do with it. Come, put my armor on me. Give me my lance. Satan, send out the soldiers. Doctor, the thanes are running away from me. Come on, sir, hurry. Can you figure out what's wrong with my country? If you can diagnose its disease by examining its urine and bring it back to health, I will praise you to the ends of the earth, where the sound will echo back so that you can hear the applause again. Pull it off, I tell you. What drug would purge the English from this country? Have you heard of any?
Yes, my good lord, your preparation for war sounds like something.
Bring the armor and follow me. I will not be afraid of death and destruction until Burnham Forest picks itself up and moves to Dunsinane.
I wish I were far away from Dunsinane. You couldn't pay me to come back here. They all leave. So the next scene, Malcolm, Old Seward, his son, Macduff, Menteith, Katniss, Angus, Lennox, Ross, soldiers. Everyone enters, marching with a drummer and a flag.
So we keep switching back and forth between like the two different sides of the army.
Right.
So we started with inside Macbeth's castle with the doctor and the gentlewoman watching Lady Macbeth. Then we popped across enemy lines to see everybody gathering, see what their plans are, hear how Macbeth is doing from the outside, see how Macbeth has totally lost it. He's like, give me my armor, take my armor off, give me my armor, send out the guys. I don't want any more reports. Are there no more reports? Right? He just keeps, he's agitated is the nicest way to put it. Right? And so now we're back on the enemy side with Malcolm and all the people from England.
Kinsman, I hope the time is coming when people will be safe in their own bedrooms.
We don't doubt it. What's the name of this forest behind us? Burnham Wood.
Tell every soldier to break off a branch and hold it in front of him. That way we can conceal how many of us there are, and Macbeth's spies will give him inaccurate reports. He'll do it.
We have no news except that the overconfident Macbeth is still in Dunsinane and will allow us to lay siege to the castle.
He wants us to lay siege. Wherever his soldiers will have an opportunity to leave him, they do, whatever rank they are. No one fights with him except men who are forced to, and their hearts aren't in it.
We shouldn't make any judgments until we achieve our goal. Let's go fight like hardworking soldiers.
Soon we'll find out what's really ours and what isn't. It's easy for us to get our hopes up just sitting around thinking about it, but the only way this is really going to be settled is by violence. So let's move our armies forward. So
this is, I'll let you go.
Sorry. So in this scene is important because one of the very first directions that Malcolm gives is that every soldier should break off a large branch from the tree and hold it in front of him to disguise how many people in the army there are. Okay. And so we're not talking about like a little twig. This is not like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. He wants them to like break off like a giant human-sized branch and hold it in front of him, right? So can you imagine if there was like 1,000 people with branches in front of them? What might that look like as that was marching toward you?
Yeah. The other thing is that a lot of what they're talking about here is just military strategy, right? So generally, you've got two armies. Oh, you can't see anything. There we go. You've got two armies, and they face each other, and they go at it, right? And what they're saying is that Macbeth doesn't really want to do that because he doesn't have enough guys to make that work, right? The idea is whoever's got the bigger army in this situation wins. But if Macbeth does that and all his soldiers are like, hey, I'll surrender, because they don't really like him, what he wants is a siege, right? And so what that means is he can lock himself up in the castle, the army will surround him, and then we just wait. And we see who has more basically materials, right? Will the visiting army die because they didn't bring enough stuff with them? Or will the castle army die because they can't get any new supplies in because the other army is out here? So this is siege. This is a very, very common way to fight in the Middle Ages. And it got really, really nasty. You start throwing dead bodies and diseased things into the castle walls, and that spreads disease all around the castle, and it gets really ugly. And so the fact that that's what Macbeth is hoping will happen is really not a good sign.
So now we switch back to Macbeth. So we were just on the other side. Now we're switching back to Macbeth and Macbeth's soldiers. Okay. So that's where we're at for Act 5, Scene 5.
Hang our flags on the outer walls. Everyone keeps yelling, here they come. Our castle is strong enough to laugh off their siege. They can sit out there until they die of hunger and disease. If it weren't for the fact that so many of our soldiers revolted and joined them, we could have met them out in front of the castle man to man and beaten them back to England.
A woman is crying off stage.
What's that sound?
It's women crying, my good lord.
I've almost forgotten what fear feels like. There was a time when I would have been terrified by a shriek in the night, and the hair on my skin would have stood up when I heard a ghost story. But now I've had my fill of real horrors. Horrible things are so familiar to me that they can't startle me. What was that cry for?
The queen is dead, my lord.
She would have died later anyway. That news was bound to come someday. Tomorrow, and tomorrow. The days creep slowly along until the end of time, and every day that's already happened has taken fools that much closer to their deaths. Out, brief candle. Life is nothing more than an illusion. It's like a poor actor who struts and worries for his hour on the stage and then never heard from again. Life is a story told by an idiot, full of noise and emotional disturbance and devoid of meaning.
Here comes the messenger.
You've come to tell me something? Tell me quickly.
My gracious lord, I should tell you what I saw, but I don't know how to say it.
Just say it.
As I was standing watch on the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and I thought I saw the forest begin to move.
Liar and slave.
Punish me if it's not true. 3 miles from here, you can see it coming. A moving forest.
If you're lying, I'll hang you alive from the nearest tree until you die of hunger. If what you say is true, you can do the same to me. Confidence is filling, starting to doubt the lies the devil told me, which sounded like the truth. Don't worry until Burning Wood comes to Dunsinane. And now the wood is coming to Dunsinane. Prepare for battle and go. What this messenger says is true. It's no use running away or staying here. I'm starting to go tired of living, and I'd like to see the world plunged into chaos. Ring the alarms! Blow the wind! Come, ruin! And at least we'll die with our armor on.
So they leave. Macbeth is like losing his crap a little bit because he's like, he doesn't really believe the messenger, but then he's like, that nagging feeling that you get, where you're like, Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have believed the devil, which AKA the witches, right? He's like, what if the forest really is coming, right? So now we're going to switch back to Malcolm and Macduff and the army, which is carrying the branches, which is what's making it look like the forest is marching, right? Because obviously, like a forest, like cannot literally get up and march. But remember, one of the themes of this story is equivocation. Equivocation is like half truth, right? And so trees are in fact part of the forest. Branches are part of trees, right? So it is not untrue that an element of the forest is now marching to Dunsinane. The whole forest did not like uproot, and like trees aren't marching, right? But people disguised as trees are marching to Dunsinane, right? So that's how equivocation works. All right. So Malcolm, Old Seward, Macduff, and their army enter carrying branches with a drummer and a flag. We're close enough now. Throw down those branches and show them who you really are. Uncle Seward, you and your son will lead the first battle. Brave Macduff and I will do the rest, according to our battle plan.
Good luck. If we meet Macbeth's army tonight, let us be beaten if we cannot fight. Blow all the trumpets. They loudly announce the news of blood and death.
So they leave. That was it. That was just like a little tiny mini scene to check in with how things are going for Malcolm and Macduff. I would say they're feeling pretty good. Yeah? Yeah. So now there's trumpets again, and we're back to Macbeth, who is not feeling so good.
They've tied me to a stake. I can't run away. I have to stand and fight like a bear. Where's the man who wasn't born from a woman? He's the only one I'm afraid of, and nobody else.
What's your name?
You'd be afraid to hear it.
No, I won't, even if you were one of the worst demons in hell.
My name's Macbeth.
The devil himself couldn't say a name that I hate more.
No, nor could the devil's name be more frightening.
You lie, you disgusting tyrant. I'll prove with my sword that I'm not scared of you. So I'm killed.
You were born from a woman. Swords don't frighten me. I laugh at any weapon used by a man who is born from a woman.
Trumpets and battle sounds. The noise is coming from over there. Tyrant, show your face. If someone other than me kills you, the ghosts of my wife and children will haunt me forever. This is Macduff speaking. I can't be bothered to fight those lame soldiers who only fight for money. I'll either fight you, Macbeth, or else I'll put down my sword, unused. You must be over there. By the great noise, it sounds like one of the highest ranking men is being announced. I hope I find him. I ask for nothing more than that. Malcolm and Old Seward enter.
So we're bouncing all over the battlefield here. Come this way, my lord. The castle's been surrendered without a fight. Macbeth's soldiers are fighting on both sides. Our noblemen are battling bravely. The victory is almost yours, and it seems like there's not much left to do. Our enemies fight as if they're trying not to hurt us. Sir, enter the castle.
They leave. Battle noises continue. Now Macbeth comes back.
Yeah, so this is the scene we care most about, right? Because you see that you've got Macbeth now fighting Macduff.
This is it.
The first apparition said, "Beware Macduff."
This is the moment we've been waiting for. Okay.
Why should I commit suicide like one of those ancient Romans? As long as I see the enemies of mine alive, I would rather see my sword wound them than me. I love this line purely because one of Shakespeare's other plays is Julius Caesar. And in that scene, the tragic hero is actually not Julius Caesar. He dies in the middle of the play. But he commits suicide because that was what the Romans thought was dignified. It's better to commit suicide than be captured by the enemy. And so this is kind of like Shakespeare nodding to the audience who, I don't know, 2 years ago came to see that play where the bravest thing that the guy could do was kill himself. Right? And so he's playing with history here and making the audience kind of feel like they're in on the joke.
Right. And the prominent religion of the time probably wouldn't have been super fond of committing suicide either.
Yeah, no, not so much.
Yeah.
That like a quick trip to hell is
Yeah.
suicide.
Yep. So you are the only. Oh, sorry. Turn around, you dog from hell. Turn around.
You are the only man I have avoided. Go away now. I'm already guilty of killing your whole family.
I have nothing to say to you. My sword will talk for me. You are too evil for words. They fight.
You're wasting your time trying to wound me. You might as well go stab the air with your sword. Go fight someone who can be harmed. I lead a charmed life, which can't be ended by anyone born from a woman.
You can forget about your charm. The evil spirit you serve can tell you that I was not born. They cut me out of my mother's womb before she could bear me naturally. Macduff was born with a C-section.
Yeah. Curse you for telling me this. You frightened away my courage. I don't believe those evil creatures anymore. They tricked me with their word games, raising my hopes and then destroying them. I won't fight you.
Then surrender, coward, and we'll put you in a freak show, just like they do with deformed animals. We'll put a picture of you on a sign right above the words, "Come see the tyrant."
I'm not going to surrender and have to kiss the ground in front of Malcolm or be taunted by the common people. Even though Burnham Wood really did come to Dunsinane and I'm fighting a man, not a woman born, I'll fight to the end. I'll put up my shield and battle you. Come on, let's go at it, Macduff. And damn the first man who cries, stop, enough.
So trumpets, battle noises, Malcolm,
this
Old
is like
Seward.
A big company of sound, right? Like Shakespeare is creating this effect for the audience, like boom, like this is the drum roll please kind of moment here.
Right. It would be very intense if you were watching this. And I will encourage you, like on Wednesday, we watch the play. You should definitely watch this end scene because it's going to be very intense. It's like, if you've ever seen like a Marvel action, like an Avengers movie, this is like the fight scene, right? So this is the moment. This is the fight scene, right? Like everything is going down here, right? And so ultimately there is a victorious army though that enters, and so here comes Malcolm, Seward, Ross, and everyone else with a drummer and a flag. There's always a drummer and a flag. So Malcolm says, "I wish all of our friends could have survived this battle."
In every battle, some people will always be killed. But judging from the men I see around us, our great victory didn't cost us very much.
Macduff is missing. So is your noble son.
My lord, your son has paid the soldier's price, death. He only lived long enough to become a man, and as soon as he proved that he was a man by fighting like one, he died.
So he's dead?
Okay, I'll be resting. Yes, he's been carried off the field. Your grief should not be equal to his worth, because then your sorrow would never end.
Were his wounds on the front side?
Yes, on his front.
So this is important because Seward wants to know if he died running away from battle or if he confronted battle head on like a man, this idea of masculinity and manliness and bravery. So if his wounds were on the front, then that means that he stayed and fought and faced the confrontation. And so that's why that's the question that he asked, was it in the front? You should never be wounded while retreating. That doesn't make sense in battle. Well, then, he's God's soldiers now. He's God's soldier now. If I had as many sons as I have hairs on my head, I couldn't hope that any of them would die more honorably than he did. And that's all there is to it.
He's worth more mourning than that, and I will mourn for him.
He is worth no more than that. They tell me that he died well and settled his scores. With that, I hope God is with him. Here comes better news. Macduff enters, carrying Macbeth's head. Hail, King, because that's what you are now. Look here, I have Macbeth's cursed head. We are free from his tyranny. I see that you have the kingdom's noblemen around you, and they're thinking the same thing as me. I want them to join me in this loud cheer. Hail, King of Scotland!
Hail, King of Scotland!
Trumpets. Doo-doo-doo.
It won't reward each of you as he deserves. My thanes and kinsmen, I name you all earls, the first earls that Scotland has ever had. We have a lot to do at the dawn of this new era. We must call home all of our exiled friends who fled from the grip of Macbeth's tyranny, and we must bring to justice all of the evil ministers of this dead butcher and his demon-like queen, who, rumor has it, committed suicide. This, whatever else we are called to, and whatever else we are called to do by God, we will do at the right time and in the right place. So I thank you all, and I invite each and every one of you to come watch me be crowned King of Scotland at Scone.
And that's it. They all leave. So Macduff cut Macbeth's head off, so clearly he was victorious in his battle with him. Kind of came full circle there, right? Because at the beginning, Macbeth killed someone and cut his head off. Yeah. And now Malcolm gets to be king like he was supposed to.
So if we take a quick think back to those apparitions that we saw in Act 4, right? The first one was a guy with an armor, right? And so that's Macduff. He comes in full battle armor, ready to come after Macbeth. The second apparition is a bloody child, right? Which we're like, ew, that's kind of gross. But that's how the child looks when you cut him out C-section style, right? He has to be cleaned up and everything. And so that's why that apparition was a bloody child. The last one was a child with a crown and a branch, right? So that's Malcolm. He is a young king who is carrying the tree in one hand to disguise the numbers of how many troops he has, but it also makes it look like Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane.
And he becomes king.
So all those apparitions from Act 4 come into play, and that's how Macbeth ends up done.
All right, see you in our next video.